Hey there, Radiant Leo. If you've landed here today, trust that it isn't random. Something powerful is stirring in your energy field, and your God, the divine presence that walks beside you, is calling your attention. This isn't just another horoscope. This is a direct message from the universe. And it concerns the one space you protect more than anything: your home, your sanctuary, your soul's resting place. You might have felt it lately, a strange tension in the air, a heaviness that won't go away. Maybe you've been waking in the middle of the night without knowing why. Perhaps your once peaceful spaces suddenly feel off, like they're holding energy that doesn't belong to you. If so, hear this clearly: you're not imagining it. Something is approaching. And your God is not trying to scare you, he's trying to prepare you. Leo, you've always carried light. Even when life tried to dim it, you found a way to shine through. You hold it down for others. You stay strong even when your world shakes. But right now, this isn't about being strong for others. This is about finally being strong for yourself. Your home, not just the physical space, but the sacred place within you, is being activated. And what comes next depends on how you respond to the shift. This energy isn't coming to destroy you. It's coming to show you what needs to be cleared. What needs to go. What has stayed too long. Maybe it's an object that holds old grief, a memory you've tucked away, or even a person whose presence no longer supports your light. Whatever it is, your God wants you to know, you're not alone in facing it. But you must choose to open your eyes. There's something sacred about you, Leo. You're not just here to survive the storm, you were born to walk through it like fire itself, undisturbed, unwavering. And today's message is your sign. A spiritual checkpoint. A call to come home to yourself. To draw a new line in the sand and say, nothing that disturbs my peace may enter here anymore. Before we go any deeper, let me take a moment to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your presence here, your time, your energy, your attention means everything. Every like, every comment, every new subscriber doesn't just support this channel, it strengthens this spiritual circle we've built together, known as eternal mindfulness. You are part of something sacred here. And your support is the reason I can continue bringing these transformational messages to life. Leo, trust me when I say, you're going to want to stay with me until the very end of today's message. Because what the universe is about to reveal is not only urgent, it's breathtaking. It could change everything you thought you knew about your inner sanctuary. So let me ask you this: what brought you here today? What has your soul been whispering lately? If you've been feeling a shift, if something in your heart stirred even slightly during these past few minutes, take a moment now and drop a comment below. Say, I received the message. Let the universe see your clarity. Let your God witness your readiness. Because we're just getting started. And what's coming next is sacred. Stay with me, Leo. Leo, you've always been the symbol of radiant power, of sovereign selfhood, of the one who stands tall even when the winds shift and the sky darkens. And yet, there are moments when even the strongest heart pauses, when the outer world begins to mirror something unsettled within. This is one of those moments. You may have felt it in subtle ways, waking in the middle of the night without knowing why, sensing friction in conversations with loved ones, or even feeling that your home no longer holds the same peace it once did. But what if these aren't random sensations? What if these are not disruptions, but divine signals? A sacred reminder that something within you and around you is asking to be noticed, honored, and transformed. Astrologically, we are entering a complex energetic terrain. The Sun, your ruling planet, is facing tension with Saturn, the teacher of boundaries and karmic reckoning, right in the fourth house, the house of home, family, emotional roots, and protection. It's not always comfortable when the warmth of the Sun meets the cold lessons of Saturn. It can feel like an internal push-pull between wanting to hold everything together and realizing you're being asked to let something go. This energetic crossing creates a threshold moment. One that asks, is the foundation you're standing on still aligned with the person you are becoming? In tarot, the moon reminds us that what we see is not always the full story. It stirs our subconscious and invites us to explore the corners of our own emotional house where confusion, memories, or fears may have silently gathered dust. When paired with the Ten of Wands, it tells the story of someone carrying a burden that was never meant to be carried alone. Perhaps you've taken on too much, not just in the physical sense, but energetically. And the Chariot appears not just as a vehicle of movement, but as a sacred push forward, a call to reclaim your direction before the weight of unspoken things slows your journey. These three cards together reflect not only a cosmic weather pattern but a deeply personal initiation. They mirror the emotional house you live in, not the one with four walls and a roof, but the one constructed of memory, intention, and emotional agreements. When you find yourself dreading your own silence, or bracing yourself before walking through your own door, it's time to ask, what energy am I allowing to linger here that does not honor who I am? In the teachings of ancient wisdom, the home is not merely a location, it is a vessel of the soul's breath. A sacred space where the mind rests and the spirit is meant to stretch freely. When the energy of the home becomes heavy, what's truly happening is that the internal and external have fallen out of rhythm. And this misalignment doesn't need to be punished. It needs to be noticed, tended, realigned with quiet reverence. Sometimes, before change arrives, the energy of discomfort appears as a final invitation to act with clarity. The door creaks not because it is broken, but because something old needs to be aired out. And so, the insomnia you've been experiencing, the shift in emotional safety, the unexplained visions or signs, they are not enemies. They are way showers. They are whispers from the deeper part of you that's been asking for a reset. And perhaps, your God is not shouting from above, but gently nudging you through the ordinary moments, asking you to look again. So now, instead of reacting with fear, you can meet this moment with intentional awareness. You can sit quietly in your space, light a candle, and simply ask, what here no longer feels like mine? You don't have to fight what's coming, you only have to make space. And in doing so, you become not just someone who endures change, but someone who moves through it with grace, with dignity, with the lion heart that has always lived within you. This is not a warning meant to create panic. It's an awakening. And like any true awakening, it begins not with noise, but with stillness. That moment when the heart hears what the mind tried to explain away. That soft but powerful realization, you deserve to live in a space both within and without that nourishes your soul. And anything that does not is simply not meant to stay. When we speak of home, especially for you, Leo, we aren't only talking about bricks and beams, furniture, or familiar scents drifting through the hallway. We're talking about the unseen space, the one that mirrors your inner world, that absorbs every breath, every unspoken word, every emotion you've ever held back for the sake of others. This is the place where your true self is either nourished or neglected. And perhaps that's why what's happening now feels so unsettling. It's not just that something is shifting outside of you, it's that something long buried is being stirred within the sanctuary you've built around your spirit. According to the law of attraction, every environment we inhabit reflects the energy we most frequently emit. Your home isn't just a setting, it's an amplifier. It holds the echoes of your choices, your fears, your memories, and if you've outgrown those energies, the space around you will begin to feel tense, stagnant, even hostile. You may walk from room to room and feel like you're not entirely welcome in your own life anymore. This doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It simply means your frequency has changed and your home is waiting to rise with you. This is where awareness becomes powerful. Because while you can't control every external situation, you do have the ability to clear, bless, and realign your sacred space with intention. Small actions carry profound weight. Lighting a white candle is not about ritual for ritual's sake, it's about returning to clarity. The sound of wind chimes isn't just pleasant, it breaks up stagnant energy that your body may have unconsciously adapted to. Scents like bergamot don't just smell clean, they work subtly on the limbic system, soothing doubt and lifting the quiet veil of emotional heaviness. There's also wisdom in simplicity. Pouring a small circle of salt at your door isn't superstition. It's a declaration. A symbol that says, "Only what honors my peace may enter here." Drawing a ring of light around your bed is more than aesthetic, it's a reminder that rest is sacred, and you deserve to sleep in safety, unburdened by what no longer serves your evolution. Colors matter too, not just for design, but because color is vibration. Gold speaks to your natural power, Leo, your sense of worth, your warmth, your ability to lead from the heart. Ruby red wraps you in protection, reinforcing your boundaries without closing you off from love. Pearlescent white cleanses not just your home, but your mindset, bringing in the cool clarity needed to see what you've been tolerating for too long. There's a teaching that says your outer world reflects the state of your inner altar. And if the altar is covered in dust, surrounded by clutter, or hidden behind distractions, how can your intentions shine clearly? In this way, the act of clearing your space is not spiritual performance. It's emotional medicine. It's an act of love that tells the universe, I am ready to stop living with ghosts. I am ready to invite light again. So ask yourself honestly, is there an object in your home that holds pain you haven't faced? A gift from someone you no longer speak to? A letter you keep but never read? These things may seem small, but they vibrate with memory. And memories, when left unchecked, become anchors. The beauty is that you don't need to purge everything. You only need to make conscious decisions. You only need to ask, does this still resonate with who I am now? That question alone is a key. And the moment you answer it with courage, your home shifts with you, not as a building, but as a sacred extension of your soul's readiness to thrive. Letting go has never been easy for someone like you, Leo. You've worn strength like a crown, held steady when others wavered, and learned early on how to carry not only your own weight but the weight of those you love. And while there is nobility in that kind of loyalty, there also comes a moment when even the most steadfast must stop and ask, what part of this was ever truly mine to hold? You see, releasing something isn't the same as giving up. It's not weakness, defeat, or abandonment. It's choosing to step away from what no longer reflects your truth so you can return to a life that does. In astrology, Leo's energy is rooted in self-expression, confidence, and leadership through the heart. But when your light is used only to warm others without replenishment, it dims over time. That dimming doesn't always look like collapse. Sometimes, it shows up as quiet fatigue. As the constant smile that hides exhaustion. As the silence after one too many compromises. And in those subtle moments, your inner fire starts whispering, "I miss me." This is why the symbolic act of writing a goodbye letter to your old self isn't about drama, it's about honoring the version of you that did what they had to do to survive. The one who kept showing up. The one who kept smiling even when it hurt. By putting those thoughts on paper, you're not just expressing grief, you're granting closure. You're saying, "Thank you, but I no longer need to be that version to be worthy." Burning the letter beneath the moonlight and returning the ashes to the earth creates a gesture of natural release. Just like the trees let go of their leaves not in sadness, but in trust. There is a teaching that reminds us, when the hand is clenched, it can neither give nor receive. But once it opens, once it releases, it becomes available to something new. That's the essence of the death card in tarot. Not an end, but a cleansing. A clearing of old energetic contracts. When death is followed by the Ace of Cups, it speaks of emotional renewal, of joy not forced, but gently rising from a space made clear. And the Queen of Wands? She reminds you that confidence doesn't come from pretending. It comes from alignment. From allowing yourself to burn bright not because others need your light, but because you've chosen to live as flame again. Numerologically, the number 5 is the number of freedom, but also of chaos. It's the energy of change that feels like disruption at first but ultimately leads to transformation. Think of it like the wind that rustles the branches before the storm clears the sky. This kind of shift doesn't ask for planning, it asks for presence. And courage. The courage to trust that letting go of one role allows you to step into your next one more fully. So today, take your hand to your heart. Feel that steady rhythm. It's the reminder that you are still here. That you are not just the result of everything you've held, but also of what you now choose to release. Say it softly or boldly, whatever feels true. I am no longer the one who carries everything. I am the one who creates. And in that small but sacred declaration, the old weight begins to dissolve. And what remains is not emptiness, but space for new joy, new clarity, and a deeper form of strength to rise. True sovereignty isn't something that's granted by the outside world, it's something that arises when you no longer ask for permission to be yourself. Leo, you've spent so much of your life shining on cue, holding yourself to impossible standards, and stepping into roles that served everyone else's comfort but slowly eroded your own center. But now, there's a quiet shift taking place, one that doesn't need to be declared loudly, only lived sincerely. The invitation here is to stop dimming yourself to maintain balance, and instead, to let your inner clarity determine the rhythm of your outer world. The first place this self-honoring begins is within the body. Your body is not just a shell, it is the compass of your energy. What you feed it, how you breathe, how you rest, how you speak to it'll become reflections of how fully you believe you deserve to be nourished. Foods that inflame, that dull, that overstimulate thee don't just affect digestion or energy levels. They cloud intention. They make it harder to hear the subtle messages that guide you forward. When you simplify adding greens, clearing sugar fog, sipping herbal infusions that ground rather than stimulate, what you're doing isn't dieting. You're listening. You're choosing presence over habit. And presence is where true strength lives. Your breath, too, is a sacred tool. As a fire sign, your energy is bold, magnetic, sometimes consuming. But fire needs rhythm. It needs oxygen to burn cleanly, not chaotically. Practicing the simple 747 breathing: inhale for 7 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 7 teaches your fire how to sustain itself. You're not just calming your nerves. You're teaching your nervous system that safety doesn't come from external approval. It comes from the stability you create in your own body. In your work, ask yourself, is what I do still reflecting who I am? Or has it become a costume I wear to survive the day? We are conditioned to equate identity with productivity, but a role that drains you is not a path, it's a signal. And change doesn't have to look like rebellion. It can begin as curiosity. A willingness to explore where your soul would lead you if you let it speak louder than your fear. Finances, too, are energy. They reflect your relationship with trust, with boundaries, with value. When you restructure your resources, you're not just budgeting, you're repracticing discernment. Splitting your income into care, growth, and soul nourishment is more than financial planning. It's a way to ensure that every dollar becomes a mirror of your evolving priorities. Money is not a reward for worthiness. It's a tool. And when used with intention, it can support not just your comfort, but your evolution. And when it comes to love, it's time to ask a deeper question. Am I shrinking to be chosen, or am I choosing to stay expansive? You don't need someone to understand every part of your story immediately. What you need is someone who doesn't ask you to shrink. Someone who allows you to take up the space your heart was born to fill. The relationships that belong to this next version of you won't feel like negotiation. They'll feel like alignment. There's an ancient truth that the lotus blooms not because it forces the water to change, but because it has found its root and risen on its own terms. This is where you are now, Leo. Not waiting for permission. Not waiting for applause. Just remembering that your light was never dependent on approval, it was born from within, and the moment you claim it fully, the world has no choice but to adjust. There's a quiet moment in every journey where we stop waiting for something outside of us to change, and instead, turn inward with a softer kind of clarity. You've reached that moment, Leo, not as someone in crisis, but as someone standing at the threshold of deeper awareness. All the signs, all the shifts, all the disruptions that brought you here were not tests or punishments. They were keys. But not keys handed to you by someone else. They were hidden in your own pocket all along, waiting for you to pause long enough to notice them. The idea that someone or something must come to save us is a story that wears thin over time. What you begin to understand now is that true liberation doesn't happen when the storm passes. It happens when you choose to open the door during the storm and walk through it anyway without waiting for reassurance or applause. When you no longer need to be rescued, because you have remembered that the resilience, the insight, and the clarity were always yours. Your God doesn't stand before you as a shield. He walks beside you not to protect you from life, but to walk with you through it. Not as a savior, but as a companion to your courage. The metaphor of light is often misunderstood. We think of it as something distant, shining down upon us, granting warmth or visibility when we feel lost. But what if the light doesn't come from above? What if it awakens from within? In stillness, when the mind quiets and the body softens, something begins to glow inside you, not a spotlight, but a steady flame. That flame is the signal. The one that tells you, you are ready. Not because the path is easy, but because the strength you need is already awake. Lighting 3 candles, one for the past, one for the present, and one for the unknown future, isn't just symbolic. It creates a visible reflection of where your awareness is being asked to stretch. Past, for what you have survived and learned. Present, for what you are choosing to see and accept. Future, not as something to control, but as a space to receive. Sitting with those 3 lights for even 11 minutes in quiet breath allows your system to soften into alignment. You're not asking for signs. You're creating space for guidance to become clear. But here's the deeper question: are you willing to cross the threshold without your old baggage? Not just the memories, but the identities. The roles you played to be loved. The ways you shrank to be accepted. The silence you kept to maintain peace. These are heavy. And while they once served a purpose, they no longer fit the shape of your becoming. You cannot carry all of who you've been and still make room for all of who you are meant to be. The moment you decide to travel lighter, to set down the weight of what you no longer need, something shifts. The universe doesn't rush in with fireworks. It whispers. You'll notice it in your body. Your breath becomes deeper. Your shoulders lower. You sleep more peacefully. That's not magic. That's alignment. That's what it feels like when you stop resisting what's next and begin trusting what is. Sometimes, the most powerful declarations are the quiet ones. Not shouted, not even spoken aloud. But felt. Claimed. So if something in you has stirred, if you've sensed signs through dreams, patterns, music, or moments of strange synchronicity, share it. Write it down. Speak it in the comments. Not because you need validation, but because expressing it helps you step fully into what you already know. Your God is not here to remove the mountains. He's here to remind you, you were always capable of climbing them. Leo, if you're still here with me now, then I know something inside you has stirred. Maybe it was a sentence that made your breath deepen, or a silence that felt like truth. Whatever it was, you felt it not as fear, but as recognition. Because this journey wasn't just about hearing a warning or lighting a candle or breathing in rhythm. It was about coming back to yourself. You, who have spent so long holding the line, protecting others, and standing tall for the sake of being the steady one, now, finally, were given permission to soften. And maybe, just maybe, you realized you didn't need permission at all. We've walked together through the signs, the rituals, the inner voice you've ignored for too long. We talked about the weight you've carried, not because you're weak, but because you're deeply loyal. We named the space around you not just as a home, but as a reflection of your inner temple. We lit symbolic fires, not to burn the past, but to light the path ahead. And all of it was leading here, this quiet, powerful moment where you ask yourself, what energy will I allow into my space from this day forward? Will I keep the door wide open to what depletes me? Or will I finally draw a line, not from fear, but from self-respect. That's the true essence of power, Leo, not how loudly you roar, but how clearly you choose. You're not a victim of fate or someone waiting to be saved. You're the one who redrew the blueprint of your soul and said, "This time, it will be different." And yes, that decision may seem small to the outside world. But inside, it is a revolution. So I want to ask you this: who would you become if you stopped shrinking? If you trusted your light not as something to prove, but as something to honor? What would happen if you stopped negotiating your peace to make others comfortable? These aren't questions to rush through. They are invitations. To breathe. To pause. To reclaim. If your heart feels even a flicker of yes right now, don't let it fade into tomorrow. Write it down. Speak it. Declare it not to the world, but to yourself. Say it with your hand over your chest, steady and true: I am not just a survivor. I am the leader of my soul. And when you're ready, I invite you to take that energy and make it visible. Drop a comment below and simply write, "I am ready to rebuild my light." Let that be the moment you say yes to yourself without apology. Let it be your vow to rise. I want to take a moment to thank you deeply for staying with me through this message. Your time, your presence, your energy is sacred. Every like, every comment, every share and every subscription brings you closer to the heart of this space we're creating together. This is more than a channel. Eternal mindfulness is a circle of souls choosing to remember who they are, and lighting the way for others who are still searching in the dark. So if today's message moved something within you even just a little, don't let it slip away. Subscribe, so we can keep meeting here. Like the video if it brought you clarity. Share it with someone you know is standing at their own threshold. Because your light, Leo, doesn't just illuminate your path, it becomes the lighthouse for someone else's. You are the light. Not a flame that flickers in the wind. Not a spark that needs protecting. But the sun itself, steady, sovereign, and rising again. And now it's time. Let's build something brighter. Together.